Welcome to the Home Building Hub, your essential podcast guide to building your new home. Hosted by industry experts Colin and Darren Brennan, this conversational podcast will help better educate you about all things new home building so you can avoid costly mistakes and enjoy your building experience to the fullest, no matter which home builder you choose.
Hey there folks, welcome to the Home Building Hub. Colin here with co-host Darren Brennan as always, and today guys we're going to fly through in, hopefully Darren, 15 minutes. We're going to explain the new regulations to you, give you a short sharp example of I guess the three main components, so all of those out there, all of you out there shopping, talking to builders, get a bit of an understanding of what to expect in terms of design changes, what to expect in pricing, just a bit of an indication to better equip yourselves for the chats with your home builders. Daz, how you going today, mate?
Going great, mate. Woolly jumpers are on, mate. It's the first morning we've recorded for a while that we've thrown the jumpers on, mate. So we're heading into the autumn weather, mate, and it's a bit fresher up here in Ballarat the last couple of days anyway. We've had such a good run, and now I almost thought there was going to be ice on my car yesterday, so not quite, but nearly.
Getting cooler. Well, let's jump straight in. So those who are listening for the first time, if you want to get to know us and the reason we're doing the podcast, etc., jump onto episode number 1, introduction. There's a fee for the podcast, which is really just share it to one person and give us a 5-star review if you like it. So that's what we like everyone to do if you could. And let's jump straight in, Daz. So basically, guys, there are 3 main factors we're going to talk about today for new regulations. So these are coming in Victoria, the 1st of May, 2024, very close to the time we're recording this. Some other states have already rolled out some of these. So it's more specific to Victoria, but still good to know for everyone else what the impacts are. So the first, I guess the 3 things we'll talk about: 7-star energy ratings instead of 6-star, as currently, I guess, regulated or currently rolled out and has been for a while. Livable housing requirements is another one we'll talk about. And the third one will be whole of home. Okay, so I think, Daz, let's jump straight in. Let's talk about 7-star first.
Of course. So I think the key with the 7-star part is, one, you're going to get a more efficient home, no question about that, right? So you're going to save money on your heating and cooling bills, right? So that's the aim of it, is to save you some money. But not only that, it's there to reduce greenhouse gases, which is clearly better for the environment and from anybody's standpoint, but certainly from a government standpoint, that's really key, right? What else is there? You're going to have to, in order to do these things, to move to 7-star, you're going to have more insulation in your home. So they're going to insulate more of it, thicker insulation in more locations potentially. Double glazed windows throughout the home. So they're going to become standard. One bit I will point out to you, and it's going to be worth asking once it's in, is what windows are you double glazing? Because not all windows on all homes will be double glazed by all builders. So just be aware, for example, bathrooms, laundries may not be double glazed by some. So you're not going to be comparing apples to apples when you're trying to work out why they are a bit more expensive than the other one, etc. Right? Smaller windows, right? You're probably going to end up with smaller windows and potentially smaller doors. So less glass is the key. Glass is where all the heat and escapes from the home or gets into the home, right? So windows are the key, and they're probably going to get smaller. Orientation of the home, so which direction the home faces, is probably the most important factor to getting your home to rate to 7-star. So I guess you want to understand how that's going to impact your home. What I will say to you is not all homes are going to be able to be built in all orientations. And under some orientations, you might have to, again, reduce window sizes, more insulation again, consider other ways to try and get that home to comply. It's not going to be easy. And if you have a north-facing block, then you need to be really mindful, because I'm going to suggest build now on it, because you're going to have some serious challenges after the 1st of May. Structural changes are going to be reduced or possibly eliminated for some builders. So if you want to come in with a red pen and chop and change, it's probably going to be much harder to do, because it's going to be much harder to rate that home. And above all, costs will increase substantially. these things aren't free. They're going to cost you a lot of money. So I guess that's where the 7-star part of this component comes in, Cole. I'm going to throw to you with livable housing, but paired with the livable housing is the new NCC requirements. They're easier in some respects. And what I mean by the new NCC, which we didn't touch on in our notes, and I just thought of it now, is there's some condensation requirements, but they're not as heavy in Victoria as elsewhere. So they'll come into play, but the the livable housing part are more what we're going to talk about today, because in Victoria, certainly the condensation stuff's not as heavy.
Yeah. So NCC's National Construction Code for those of you out there. I guess with the 7-star, yeah, it's really important the understanding that builders will vary on what they're going to provide to achieve that. And then the second factor is really around those who have north facing lots. It's going to be far more challenging. Now these things can't be rated until later, a little bit down the track, so you can't just get everything priced exactly up front. So there'll be a little bit more flexibility on that component, I'd say, Daz, as well, in terms of people understanding what's priced up front versus potential pricing that could change down the track. So we will all come to learn this as becoming the norm, but as it's new, it's something that, I guess we're trying to educate people on. Okay, livable housing. Basically, I guess, blast through this pretty quickly, Darren. So the idea of livable housing is essentially to have wheelchair access, or really provision for the elderly. Okay, so basically there's not a huge amount of changes happening, but these will impact the designs that we're used to seeing, particularly on smaller lots or smaller designs, probably around 20 squares or lower. So basically the main changes we'll list are: we will be required, because of wheelchair access, wider hallways, wider doors, one hobless shower or a step-free shower in the home, a circulation space. So picture a wheelchair having to be turned around, will need to be in front of a toilet. So that needs to be 1.2 metres by 900 mil, or 1200 mil by 900 mil, open space. No door can get in the way, nothing can be in the way of that. With the bathrooms, Daz, or en suites, depending what they're picking, but likely bathrooms, they need to reinforce within the walls, put in some extra timber, etc. And that's for the future installation of grab rails. Okay, so someone who is elderly needs a bit of help getting up or getting down. The grab rails are a really, really nice thing to do that. Instead of ripping the whole wall out, having to put the reinforcement in, it'll already be there as part of the standard. Okay, so the last one I'll probably note there, Daz, is that you have to have one step-free entrance into the home. Now, some builders are going to roll through the porch and do it that way. Some are going to go through the garage and do it that way. It's also dependent on the lot. You've got a single garage versus double garage, depending on the amount of gradient or fall from the front of the boundary to the front of the house. That will also impact it. So some of those things will vary based on your design and your block as well. Okay, so as far as pricing, these things aren't going to massively impact pricing, especially like 7-star is. It'll have a small or marginal increase to what's provided. 7-star is the one that's going to have the massive increase. I would say, taking away from this, the most important thing is understand that smaller blocks are going to be harder to build the houses that you're used to seeing today. If you've got an 8.5 or a 10.5, or even a shorter block, smaller designs, because of the width of the doorways having to be increased, because of the width of the hallways having to be increased, it means that 3-bedroom home either A, has smaller bedrooms, 2.7 instead of 2.9 or 3, or it could be that a 4-bed comes down to a 3, or in some cases potentially a 3-bed comes down to a 2-bed. So that's the impact it's going to have. But again, it will become the norm pretty quickly. It's just in this transition period. So anything else to add there, Daz?
No, I think again, that makes sense what the government's suggesting here. However, it has an impact on the home. So if you want bigger bedrooms, for example, and don't want a wider hallway, well, again, take action now, right? Because this stuff's
Yeah.
going to impact you. I mean, and not always that all these things make sense is the other bit. Is so you spoke about the shower that you got to be able to access. If you're in a 2-story home, that shower could be upstairs. Now, I don't know if someone in a wheelchair gets up a set of stairs. It's not certainly easy. So again, it just doesn't make a lot of sense that that's the case, but you still got to comply. So you might be wondering, why is that the case? Because the builder has to comply. So don't blame the builder for making you put a flat shower upstairs. And again, a lot of builders haven't built that way before. So
Yeah.
this is changes to what they've traditionally done, and that presents its own challenges for the builder. So they're going to be learning, so in some cases, how to build in a slightly different way to what they've built previously. So yeah, it's certainly interesting.
All right. Next one, Darren. Let's move on to whole of home. What does that mean and how does that
Whole
work?
of home is referring to the energy consumption that your whole home is going to use. And essentially, what it's meaning is how much electricity are you consuming? And so they're saying the whole of home consumption. So I'm sitting here right now, and they'd make an assumption in this room that I'm in that it's a study. So you're going to have a computer in it, you're going to have a printer, and they'll make some assumptions around electricity consumption around generally, like what most people use. And then they'll push back to the actual things that you've got in your home, right? So what I mean by those is, for example, they know you're going to have a fridge. They know you're going to have a dishwasher, right? Because you've got a space there for it. So if you've got a space, they'll assume you've got a dishwasher, a dryer, and a washing machine. But if you put two ovens in, now they know because on the plans of your home, it's got two ovens. That's more than most people. So the assumption of one is no longer there. It's physically two. They'll assume you need more electricity to run that. If you've got lots and lots of downlights, external lights, other things like that, if you're putting a pool in, you've got a pool pump, they'll consider all those items and say that's going to use approximately this amount of electricity. And then you have to offset that electricity with a PV system, solar panels on your roof, right? Basically, that's going to generate electricity from the sun. And so the more electricity you use, the bigger that system needs to be. Smaller house, less electricity, naturally, because there's less rooms, etc., etc. Bigger house, bigger electricity, more appliances, more electricity, bigger system on your roof. So we're talking about, as I say, a PV or a photovoltaic PV system. We're not talking about your solar hot water. That'll still need to be there. So those regulations will still apply. We're talking about generating electricity to offset the power your home will use. And so that again is a substantial cost because you're talking about thousands or tens of thousands of dollars depending on how big that unit is. And again, it's a good thing because you're generating electricity from the sun. That'll hopefully offset some of the cost of running your home, right? So your electricity bill should come down because of that, but it is substantial to that cost. I guess if we look at overall coal, so why is all this so important? Number one, and we're talking about all three items here. Number one, it's going to cost somewhere between $15,000 and $50,000, right, for your home to be compliant, and it's a big range, right? Bigger the home, bigger the cost, right? Smaller home, smaller the cost. Um, After April 30, you must now comply with these new regulations. There's no, can I come in the 15th of May and by the way, can we just do the old deal? No, we can't, right? Builders get audited. They're not going to take that risk. So if you don't make a decision by the 30th of April and have paid them a deposit and physically shown that that's the case, been receipted for a deposit, right? Got a credit card transaction that's gone through, and you've got to have done some works. So that deposit has to be related back to a quote, back to a siding, back to a set of generic plans, but it has to be shown that something's been done. You can't just give money and say, I'll choose my house later. No, you've got to have chosen the house design. You've got to have had a siding of that house in your block. So there is works that needs to be completed. Talk to your builder about that so you're really clear on that. If you want to change house types, you can't. You change house type, you move to 7-star, right? So be mindful of what that's like. Um, the other real key is you might not be able to build the house you want on your block because you might not be able to get it to comply with 7-star. You might not be able to get it to comply, Cole, with the new NCC requirements for wheelchair accessible because you might need to drop your garage, for example. And how do you get that gradient for the pathway to the front door, for example, if you can't have that step-free transition into your home? So it's going to be difficult to actually be able to build a home on your block. My advice to you is if any of this is important to you, as in you want to save some money, you're concerned about the orientation, etc. Lock it in before the cutoff date so that you're in power, right? Pay a deposit and let's get the show on the road, right? Let's get your house underway for you so that we can help you through that. Because after June 30, all this new stuff applies. And they're not bad things, but they're just going to cost you more money and become a little bit more difficult to build. So if you want to add anything to wrap it up, Cole.
April 30, not June 30. But last thing I'd add is for clients who don't proceed pre this change, please have some patience. Understand that what we're used to right now is we can give you base price, fixed site cost, fixed. We can do that today. But when these new regs come into play, it does change that. There's going to be likely areas due to 7-star or due to whole of home, which we cannot price up front because we do not know every single factor. And then once that's energy rated and they go through that review, it could come back and say, look, you need to pay an extra X dollars to get more solar panels on or whatever it may be. Please understand, have some patience, put in a little bit of a contingency amount in your quote or in your budget at least to cover what may come. Don't blame the builder, okay? I think it's really important to explain that, Daz. And I think we went a touch over. We're on 16 minutes right now, but we did pretty well. So, guys, want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. As always, if you've got a question, jump on homebuildinghub.com.au. And if you have a spare 4 to 5 seconds, perhaps 30 seconds, please leave us a 5-star review on the platform you're listening on. And other than that, we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.
Good on you guys. Cheers. Thanks for listening to the podcast, guys. And just our disclaimer, whilst we're all about providing value to you, this podcast should not be considered as legal or financial advice. It contains general information only, and you should seek out independent professional advice on your personal situation before making any legal or financial decisions.
1,